Sunday morning, everyone, or Sunday afternoon, depending on where you are. Once again, I am John with Pure Adrenaline Fantasy Sports. Joined with me, as always, is my co-host, Sean. And with us again this week is Jeremy from NFL Chaos with Jeremy. Guys, how are you this morning?
I'm good.
Doing all right.
Good. Go ahead.
I'm saying I'm waiting for it. It's a big start.
So most fantasy leagues, this is hopefully their last week of their regular season before the playoffs start. I know in the one league I'm in, I am playing the guy I am tied with for the last spot. There are some tiebreaker situations where if somebody else loses, I might still be able to get in with a loss. But guys, how are your fantasy teams doing?
I'm in a 5-way tie. I play one person I'm tied with. And there's another matchup where the two people that are tied with are in it, and then another person that is playing someone that's knocked out of the playoffs. So 3 spots available. So if all 3 matchups, whoever wins 2 of them are in automatic, and the other one could come down to is if they lose, then it could come down to 3 people that lose who has the best record out of them or points or whatever it is. But just trying to win it. And I started 6-1 and fell apart real quick.
How about you, Jeremy?
Remember that mine is a free league, so it's not very competitive. So I'm in third place, which is not super impressive because there's some people that aren't even managing their team really as much anymore. But it's a 12-team league, so I'm still happy with it. So we'll see what happens in the playoffs.
Yeah, some injury news going on. It looks like Mike Williams will play today. Or when is that game? I don't have the schedule in front of me.
I think it's 4:05. It's they play out in LA today.
And it looks like for the Rams tomorrow night, looks like Henderson will be out. So Tony Michel should get the start again. Elijah Moore's out for the Jets. We were talking before we went on air about all the Jets that are out. But Sean said Tony Pollard's out, Swift is out, McKissick is out, and Hawkinson is doubtful. Sean, do you have any other injury news?
I think Melvin Gordon's questionable, but they said he's probable to play. But knowing that the Broncos are playing Detroit Lions, I wouldn't see if Melvin Gordon doesn't play very much and they have more Jamal Williams playing in that game and just using Williams using Gordon if they need him. Kind of like the Rams did 2 weeks ago with Henderson. If we need him, we'll put him in. But if not, then we're just going to let it ride. But Keenan Allen, I know, is out for the Chargers, which could make Mike Williams have a bigger game. Even Guyton, the third-string wide receiver there. I know Julio Jones is back this week and Alvin Kamara. So that's possible big fantasy implications there. So, and then from there, I mean, there's a lot of games that have a lot of people missing here and there that could result in different outcomes of games.
Of course, Kamara's back the week they face the Jets, right?
Of course.
So, how about some other guys? I looked. How about Debo Samuel?
I think he's still questionable. I think they're gonna have him test his ankle or his hamstring. I forget what his injury was. I think they're gonna say they'll have him test it and know up to 90 minutes prior. But for fantasy purposes, if you have him and you don't need if you have someone you can put in a spot, I'd probably do that just so at 4:20 or 3 o'clock when the lineups come down, he's out. You're not without anybody to throw in that spot. So I wouldn't take the risk, especially with his injury. If the Niners aren't needing him to win, then I wouldn't worry about it. They'll just use George Kittle more, and they'll use their running backs a little more. I know Elijah Mitchell's out for them today. Their top running back, so they're going to run with their 2 and their third stringers.
And one more guy I had a question about. I know he was on the injury report. I don't know how serious is Joe Mixon from the Bengals.
Yeah, I think he's questionable as well.
So, guys, keep an eye on those players with their kickoff times, and make sure you get your lineups in. I had to do a little finagling, picking up a wide receiver here off the waivers just to have somebody because Moore's out. But guys, let's get into some of today's games while we wait for the chat to start asking questions. We have Atlanta and Carolina, two teams that won't be making the playoffs. Any fantasy value on any of those two teams today, Sean?
Well, truthfully, whoever wins this game is going to be technically tied possibly for the last wild card spot. Because if Washington loses and the 49ers lose, it could be a 5 to 6 way tie for the last seeding. Because there's so many, or actually the last two seedings, because Washington and the Niners are in right now. But if they both lose, then they would be tied with Minnesota, the winner of the Carolina-Atlanta game, and then the Eagles as well, who are on a bye this week. So, and if the Saints win, it would be an even bigger tie. So there could be a lot of teams that come down to it, that it comes down to who, their division wins and their conference wins on who makes it. But I think the advantage right now would go to the 49ers just because they've played the tougher opponents right now in their games, and that they have an easier schedule possibly for the rest of the year.
I didn't look at their schedule. Jeremy, any thoughts on the Falcons Panthers?
I went with like overall as a game for Atlanta. That's a win. Just because the adversity in Carolina, like the scapegoating of Joe Brady, I just see them kind of falling apart without Christian McCaffrey. Like it's just like they're in a downswing, and I think Atlanta's been playing a little bit better and seems to be improving. So I'm looking for Pitts to have a good game, and Atlanta to pull it off with their veteran quarterback.
I pretty much think that when you hear the Atlanta Falcons, I think the whole team that you think about at first is Cordell Patterson and what position the guy is going to play. I mean, last week they put him in as a backup safety on defense. Right. So, I mean, wide receiver, running back, kick, punt returner, and now safety on his resume. And I think he has a few throws in his career as a Wildcat. So the guy probably can line up anywhere. And when the ball's in his hands, honestly, he reminds me of Tyreek Hill. He somehow finds the littlest of gaps and turns it into positive yardage. And him and Tyreek Hill have that sight where they can see the whole field, and they look at it and they find every little gap that they could turn a 5-yard gain into a 15.
Yeah. Sean, you were mentioning depending on who wins and loses this week, a bunch of teams can be tied in the NFC for that last playoff spot. Actually, one of the teams I was just looking at, we'll get to them here in a little bit, but the Seahawks, they're currently sitting at 4-8, but they do have a favorable schedule the rest of the year. I mean, they do have a game against the Rams and the Cardinals left, but you never know in those matchups.
Especially if late in the year and if the Rams lose Monday night, they pretty much know the division's kind of over. That if they play the Rams later in the year, it could come down to it that the Rams are resting people at that time or something. Or even when they play Arizona, because I think those are the last 2 weeks of the year for them. So it could come down to is that they play the teams that have already clinched playoff spots, and they could be battling for it. But, I mean, as a division rival, I don't know if they're going to have a free and easy willing game for them, so it would still probably be a battle, and they would probably keep their starters in, just try to not have Seattle in, knowing that it's a division team.
Yeah, let's jump over to the Baltimore and Cleveland game. This is a big division matchup. Baltimore coming off that tough loss to Pittsburgh, going for 2 at the end. If the Browns can somehow win this game, they will be 1 game behind for the division lead. And right now they are only 1 game out of a playoff spot. The Bills have the last spot, and the Browns Bills are 7-5, and the Browns are 6-6. So what do you guys, not just this matchup, but any fantasy implications?
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I think that Baltimore is going to win the game because I think that Baker is still banged up and playing hurt, and I think that Baltimore's just this time of year in December. I just expect them, like I'm always expecting them to just turn it on because they, they'll struggle at times, but then when they have to, they turn it on. I'll go with their coach, a more proven coach as well. And I'm looking for, like every week, I'm looking for Lamar Jackson to break out and really light it up. So because it's just so hard for me to imagine that he won't. I think Cleveland is capable, especially at home, of playing very good defense. So I would be very careful about Lamar Jackson this week, though, to be honest.
Yeah, looking at Lamar, I think the Ravens should win this game, but the Ravens Lamar's got to keep the turnovers down. The turnover ratio, I think they're like averaging 2 or 3 a game the last 3 or 4 games, and you can't expect to keep winning games that are division rivals like that. I know they played Cleveland, I think 2 weeks ago on Monday night, and I think they had 4 turnovers from Lamar. Last week against the Steelers, I think he had 2. So you can't go into a game and say like that they're actually favored to lose, but I think they have the advantage if they can try to keep the turnovers down and if Lamar can get his legs moving. But if he's sitting in the pocket, then that's when the turnovers are more likely to happen because he's not a pocket quarterback. Him and Michael Vick he's pretty much alike, were never pocket quarterbacks. They have to be they're always on the run.
And I did see, I was looking at some of the stats this year. Lamar has been sacked the most times this year. Did you guys know that?
Wow, he might knock the streak of Russell Wilson off for the most sacks every year because Russell Wilson's used to always getting knocked around, but it's just he doesn't try to throw the ball away, and I think he just hangs on to it too long. Same with like Patrick Mahomes.
I agree 100%. I think it's an issue of certain players, like when you hear those names and you think they're competitors, and that's why they take those sacks because they never give up. But nobody complains when they're getting hit and they let it go at the last second and make a huge play, right? So that's what they're trying to do every time.
Yeah, I think as long as Lamar can get out of the pocket, he can run and not have as many turnovers. I think honestly they should win that game. I think.
Yeah, let's look at Dallas and Washington. Another division matchup here. Some good division matchups going on today. I believe Dallas has a 2-game lead in the division. Yeah. 2-game lead. So definitely a big matchup here. What do you guys think? You said Pollard was out today too, right, Sean?
Yeah, and McKissick. So it's both starting running backs. That's all that's left. But I like Washington at home. I just think that Washington right now, they're on a 4-game winning streak. They beat Tampa in there at home. They beat Vegas on the road. They went and beat Carolina on the road, and they beat Seattle at home. So they've been beating good teams lately, and especially the Tampa Bay game that gave them confidence that was the first of their 4-game winning streak. So I honestly think that they can go and beat Dallas. Again, this is another one of those games that if the turnover ratio goes towards Dallas and they're getting the ball a lot, Dallas always finds a way to put points on the board with a turnover. So as long as Heineke cannot throw the interceptions to Diggs or have fumbles or anything, I think Washington honestly is the better team here today, especially being at home and being a division game and knowing that if they win, they're within 1 game of the division lead. But if they lose, it's almost over because they'll be 2.5 games or 3 games out.
Right. Jeremy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just a classic game. That's like, it's so hard to predict and call games like that. I would, and I do acknowledge, like, I'm thinking from a fantasy perspective, man, the way Washington's been playing, I know, like, from a player perspective, it's hard to, he's such a premier player to have, but this year's been rough, man. Like, I wouldn't be feeling super comfortable with Zeke. I wouldn't be sitting there thinking he's gonna like. I wouldn't be like he could because he's going to get all the carries, and if there's any goal line kind of touchdowns, he's going to get them. So, but I'm saying it's high. He's such high risk against the way Washington's been playing. So, I mean, it could be a really tough game for him. Man, it's just a toss-up game to me.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
it's such a toss-up game.
I actually was having this conversation with someone I think last week, where I was saying Pollard, if he was a starting running back in Dallas, I think they would average more rushing yards a game, and they would be better overall rushing because Pollard somehow has the speed to get outside the tackles, where Zeke's just a downhill, straight up and down, north-south runner. And I honestly think if Pollard was a starting running back on a bunch of teams in the NFL, he would be successful. I think that he's excelled in the backup role. I just don't think he'll ever get the chance in Dallas to be a starter.
Yeah, we do have a question coming in from Joey Perps. First of all, thank you for the question. Pick 2 in a PPR, Lockett, Evans, and Debo. Sean, I'll let you start with this. I know Debo is on the injury report, but what say you?
I'd rather go Lockett and Evans. With Metcalf being the way he's been lately and not getting as many targets and everything, it's hard to want to say that Lockett's the number 2 right now. I think Lockett's the favorite. Debo being banged up, I mean, he's questionable. He's expected to play, but with a groin injury, one wrong hit or anything, he could be out again. And with Evans, he's on Tampa Bay, and that's all you have to say. I mean, he's on with Tom Brady.
Yeah, Jeremy, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, Debo's injury status is so up in the air, and it's the type of injury that even if he does play, you see that happen a lot where they're just not as effective. He might be more of a decoy. So I would avoid that, and I think Seattle, you have to go. They're playing Houston this week, man. There's going to be a lot to eat for these receivers, so you got to think that Lockett's going to have a chance to have a very big day. I think Wilson came around last week, and finally got back from his injury. So I think Russell Wilson's going to be effective. I really see Seattle lighting it up. I think they can put up a lot of points, and anybody on that offense is a good play this week.
Yeah, I agree with that one. It's hard not to go against Lockett and Evans, truthfully. I mean, like I said, Evans being going against the Bills defense, who gave up a lot of rushing yards last week. So with Tampa Bay, I mean, Evans could be the guy that has like the Chris Godwin game last week, 15 catches for 150 yards, or he could turn it up and have, 2 touchdown game or something. So it's hard not to ever want to have anybody on Tampa Bay in your lineup, just for the fact that Tom Brady always will go with the person that has the top hand or the hot hand, and always able to get whoever's doing better and doesn't get the drops.
Yeah, so Joey Perps, thanks again for the question. Guys, anything else on Dallas and Washington before we move on? No. Jacksonville and Tennessee. Tennessee, I believe, is 8-4. Jacksonville still at the bottom. A lot of things coming out about Urban Meyer over the last 36 hours. I don't really want to get into those situations, but what do you guys think of fantasy matchups? Anybody worth playing? I don't like anybody in this game.
No, I mean, the only person that you don't really know how it's going to turn out with is what running back could be Tennessee's go-to. And with Julio Jones back, who is the main reception? Who's going to get the main targets in the game with no A.J. Brown? And is Julio really coming back? Or like we kind of said with Debo, is he going to be a decoy for everybody else? So there's a lot of questions when it comes to that. I know they're saying that right now, obviously Urban Meyer is probably on the hot seat for being fired. I think that his heart is more in college football. I don't really know if he's an NFL coach, kind of like Nick Saban. He went from college to the NFL and then went right back to college. And I just don't know if Urban Meyer is an NFL coach. He's more easier, I think, than coaching in the college. And then with Tennessee, I know they said I just saw a thing that said Derrick Henry could be back for Week 18. So if Tennessee makes the playoffs, which they should, then they'll be back for a playoff run. And Derrick Henry in the playoffs could be, and them being that he's been on the back burner for a few weeks, so he could be a wrecking ball.
Yeah, and looking at the Titans, they should win this game, and that'll put them at 9-4, which would be tied for the Patriots for the number 1 spot. I don't have it here. Did they play each other this year?
Yeah, the Patriots have that tiebreaker.
Okay,
so regardless of how the outcome this week, I believe New England still is the 1 seed overall, just for the fact that they beat everybody that's in their matchups with the Bills, the Titans, and they haven't played Baltimore or the Chiefs, but I know the Bills own a tiebreaker over the Chiefs, and so does Baltimore. So regardless, it would be New England, I believe, anyway.
Gotcha. Let's see here. Another division matchup. We got Vegas going to Kansas City. These games are always fun to watch. What do you guys think of this one? Both the game and any fantasy matchups.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I think this is I feel like this is a game where we're starting to see the slippage of Vegas and the rise of Kansas City, which happens a lot in December with an Andy Reid coach team. It seems to be the trend. So I'm looking for Mahomes to have a big game. I'm looking for Hill to break out. I think it's going to be I think on both sides of the game, actually, I think it's going to be offensive. So I think it's going to be good for fantasy. But particularly on the Kansas City side of the ball, I have more confidence on that side of the ball. But I think the Raiders have some good plays too. I think they're going to put up points. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring in this one.
And they did play each other in Week 10. Kansas City won that game 41-14.
Yeah, my biggest question is from Kansas City side of it. Is Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce going to get back on their normal fantasy tracks? Of late, they've kind of both been a dud, and they haven't really been themselves, and other people have had to use the workload, like Damian Williams, Clyde Edwards last week, and even like Robinson or Pringle have been getting in on the action, and Hardman. So I think it'd be interesting to see if Tyreek or Kelce end up being needed in this game and getting into the end zone and scoring a touchdown, because I think it's been a few weeks since either of them have even scored.
Yeah, and I did looked at the Chiefs' remaining schedule here. The Raiders today, then they're at the Chargers, which will be like a home game for the Chiefs anyway. Home for the Steelers, and then at Cincinnati and at Denver to end the year. So not an easy schedule here. The last few weeks of the year, so they could either drop quite a bit or prove that they're still one of the elite teams in the AFC over the next 5 weeks here.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs right now, the defense is on all cylinders, and so is the offense. I mean, I think right now the defense has proven that they're the better side of the ball right now. So as long as they get a turnover or two from Derek Carr, I think the defense could be riding high, and just the offense rides off of that momentum.
Yeah, agreed. Next game on the list is the Saints going to the Meadowlands to play the Jets. Kamara's back this week, and Jeremy, what was like 15 out of the 22 the Jets opening day starters are out this week?
Well, even before opening day, but who were supposed to start? I mean, I'd have to count it up, but I mean, both safeties, 2 defensive linemen, one of their corners, one of their linebackers.
Wow.
They have an offensive lineman out. They have 2 running backs out, 2 wide receivers out. It's pretty crazy. But I think that more importantly in this game, I think that Kamara's got to be the number 1 play of the week for me. Like, if I'm from the fantasy perspective, I'm not any more excited than this running back, because the Jets are right now, unfortunately for Jet fans, and which is us, they're built to get destroyed by a running back like this. Like, they're actually it's like the perfect storm. You got like one of the best running backs in history as far as screen passes and receiving and taking advantage of holes and weak linebacker play. And the Jets are just being eaten alive by anyone that's figured out just to screen it, because they cannot stop the screen pass. So it's almost humorous. So there's just no reason why this guy is not going to light it up. I don't know where you're putting it up now, but he's got to be one of the best plays of the week for sure.
Yeah, I have Kamara at number 2 this week. The Jets are dead last against fantasy running backs. But we'll see. This is Kamara's first game back, right? So there might be a little rust, but yeah, definitely. He should definitely be putting up big numbers. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah. It's just another Austin Eckler. It's Christian McCaffrey. As long as he's healthy, then he's always going to be a guy that's going to put up numbers. I mean, you just got to give him the ball and let him do the magic. The only thing is in the red zones, it's going to be hard for him to get a touchdown just because of Taysom Hill at quarterback. So that could hurt him overall from that point.
Yeah. All right. Let's go back to the thing here. We have Seattle going to Houston. Should be another Seattle win. Looks like they're starting to get things turned around there. And like we said before, they are only 2 games out of a playoff spot right now. And with some of the matchups today, that could turn into only 1 game back. What do you think of Seattle's turning around here late in the year?
I just think because them getting Russell Wilson back, it's a difference maker. But I just think Russell Wilson, without a top running back, it's hard to have the ability to have to throw the ball so much in a game, especially when him and Metcalf haven't been having the good connections. But him and Lockett have always been on point. So I just look at it from that aspect of not having a top running back. I think that hurts Seattle a lot in any game.
Jeremy, any thoughts on Seattle-Houston game?
Yeah, I mean, I think this week Seattle's winning for sure, obviously it's exciting. You're happy to see Houston as the opponent if you have any offensive starters for Seattle. As far as the rest of the year is concerned, I mean, I agree that I don't expect them to run the table. They'll have they have a couple of more tougher games on their schedule, and they just, even when Wilson was before the injury, before he got hurt, they weren't lighting it up or anything like that. So I think, they're gonna fall. They're not gonna run the table against one of those tougher teams. But but they're not gonna lose to Houston. I mean, unless it's just one of those super shocking upsets. It would be very, very unlikely though.
Yeah. Then we have Detroit going to Denver. I know Detroit's all banged up, but they seem to keep their games close all the time. There's only been 1 or 2 games this year, I believe, where they've been blown out. Denver needs a win to stay in the hunt, I believe. Yeah, yep. They're only a game out, but yeah, there's 4 teams in between them and the Bills at the moment. So, what do you guys think of Denver and Detroit?
Detroit, I mean, is another Jet scenario. They're so banged up. They're without their top 2 running backs, their top tight end. They're without different guys, pieces here and there. But I think if Detroit can find a way to throw the ball around the field enough and stay in the game, I think they have a chance, just for the fact that Denver doesn't put a lot of points up on the board. They're only averaging like 14 to like 17 points a game. So if Teddy Bridgewater has a turnover or 2 and Detroit can put points up, I think that Detroit could have a chance to possibly even win this game again today and go back-to-back.
Jeremy, any thoughts?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was an ugly game for fantasy, because Denver's defense is really good. I could see them really making life difficult for Detroit and make it hard for them to do anything. But also, like Sean pointed out, it's not like Denver's lighting it up anymore since the beginning of the first couple of games of the year. They haven't been. So, I mean, I could see it being a low-scoring, just ugly, dirty game. And I mean, there might be some guys that get yards and receptions and, some points will be scored, but there's nothing jumping out or really exciting about that game to me as far as the players.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
I know with the game too, Denver is going to be playing with heavy hearts just because of Thursday night with Demaryius Thomas passing. I know they said they were going to do a pregame thing for him today, so Denver could come out too with a little chip on their shoulder and want to play harder for them, being that they are back at home. So that could also make Denver want to play a little harder. But again, I think it comes down to is if Detroit wins the turnover battle there, I think Detroit can win that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we have the Giants going out to LA to play the Chargers. I don't know how well Giant fans travel, but because most times when the Chargers are home, it's an away game for them. But should I actually I expect the Chargers to put up a lot of points today. I don't know about the Giants. What do you guys think?
I think I don't know if they'll put up a lot of points like crazy. Like I'm not thinking blowout 40 something points. I think the Giants defense is a little better than that, but the Giants aren't scoring, so they're not winning because they're not scoring. So and yeah, the Chargers should put up about because of turnovers. They actually might get 40, not because of the defense, but the turnovers and field position and things like that. It could be a blowout because of that. I'd expect the Chargers to win this one like 34-10 or 9 or some kind of game. Like it's going to, I'm not expecting the Giants to really be able to give much of a fight to the Chargers. And I think it's going to be a good game for Justin Herbert. So I'd be, I know Allen is out, right? So the question is who's going to get those receptions? Who's going to get those points? I mean, that's what you want to be thinking about.
Yeah.
And Williams is back. So
yeah, and for the Giants on their side of the ball, I think it comes down to is they got to get Barkley in the game more. So even to get him a couple more handoffs each drive, anything that can help him get going and getting the offense to like open up more. I think if they don't have to throw the ball 30, 40 times a game, I think then that helps them. So I think that's what's hurting them right now is they got to throw the ball so much that they got to use the run more. So if they can use the run a little bit more each week and just get Barkley to open up and get the offense to open up, then it gives you more options. And I mean, I'm not sure if Sterling Shepard's back, but I know that they're without Tony on the Giants side of the ball. But even to get Evan Ingram into it and everything, like just you got to help the quarterback scenario. And it's hard to keep blaming the quarterback when the offense doesn't want to use the running back they went out and made sure they drafted. And then all the free agent players they went out and got when there was other people on the board. So you just gotta look at it for the fact that they need to just get the running game going and trust Barkley and trust a run.
Yeah, then we have the big matchup in the afternoon, looking for Buffalo going to Tampa Bay. Buffalo coming off a home loss against New England, and that was the weather was horrendous that game with the wind, and I expect Tampa Bay to win at home. I think they'll be able to run against Buffalo. What do you guys think of this matchup?
I don't know if the Bills will allow anyone over 50 yards rushing the rest of the year just for the fact that the reporters annoyed all the defenders on the Bills after that Monday night loss. So there might be a little chip on their shoulder that if anyone tries to run the ball, they might just go to kill somebody. But I think the Bills, if they can get pressure on Tom Brady in this game, I know they pretty much haven't played for 2 weeks on defense going after a quarterback. But if they can get pressure on Tom Brady and get a turnover or two, Tom Brady has been high on turning the ball over of late. So I think if they can do that, I think that'll help them, especially in Tampa Bay. But it's hard to say Tampa Bay is going to have a bad game. They've been playing good of late, and Tom Brady's been throwing the ball a lot more than he's been having to a lot. So I think that if Tom Brady can open up the offense by throwing a lot, I think then they'll put the Bills on the back the Bills up a little bit and force Josh Allen to have to throw the ball a lot, and that could result in turnovers for Tampa Bay.
Jeremy, what about you?
Yeah, I think the Bills are playing for their life right now. Like there's so much, like a lot of teams. I mean, we see this a lot, but like their record is so questionable about their talent. Like their talent seems so high, and the expectations. Then you look at their record and the way they play against other good teams, and they just don't seem to be able to get over that little hump in those close, tough games. The fact that New England was able to figure out how to beat them and only had to pass 3 times. I mean, it just shows that, it's not only about talent and temp, so I think that Buffalo's has more to play for, like as far as desperation and to prove, chip on their shoulder. So I think they're going to be really, really fired up. But man, Tampa got Brady and they got seasoned guys who know how to win these big games. So it is the best, probably the game of the week or up top 3 games of the week for sure. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, I think I would look at Tampa Bay's receivers as the guys that, like, from a fantasy perspective, like, I think Buffalo, you're right, is going to stop the run. I think it's going to force, I think that Tampa is going to be passing a lot. And, so yeah, I mean, that's who I'd be excited about as if in this game offensively for fantasy is the wide receivers for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and I even Leonard Fournette. He's been getting a lot of receptions out of the backfield as check down. So if you got Fournette, I mean, your fantasy team could be helping you a lot. Like you said, though, the Bills, they've been in a slump lately where they haven't been able to get out of their own way to win games. So if they can win this game, it'd be a big win for the season, just for the fact that they beat the Chiefs, they beat the Bucs. But then they had tough losses like against Tennessee. So you got to try to build some momentum going into what is going to be the playoffs for them. But to lose this game, and depending on who else wins below them in the standings, they could almost get knocked out of the standings if they keep going on the down spiral, because they still have to play the Patriots. So like games like that, you got to look in your future schedule and say, like, how can we afford a loss today? We have to almost go out and win to keep playoff hopes alive.
I just had a question on Twitter come across. Jack from his Twitter handle is Sox in the City. Pick 2 to start: Mike Williams, Mike Evans, Javonte Williams. It is a PPR league.
I like Javonte Williams a lot. I think the offense for the Broncos runs around him because he's that tempo change. And then Mike Evans, and who was the other option?
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams. I would go Mike Williams just for the fact that the Chargers are without Keenan Allen, and on a Giants defense that's not that great on stopping receivers. I think that he could have a pretty decent game. But even with Mike Evans, he's known to get at least almost 6-7 catches and almost 100 yards a game. So it's like you gotta almost go with who has the better chance of a hot hand, and I think Williams is the better too.
Yeah, that's why I just responded to him with that. I agreed. Jeremy, your thoughts on those 3?
Yeah, I like Javonte Williams for touchdowns possible, touch more likeliness of that. And then I like, the fact that Allen is hurt, Justin Herbert, he slings the ball. They throw the ball week to week. So somebody's got to get those receptions. And I think it's a good matchup week anyway. So, I mean, again, it's good. I don't think there's going to be tons of scoring, but I think there'll be lots of, Justin Herbert's going to move the ball. He's going to probably, I mean, I would predict if someone said over on yards, go over 250, maybe over 300 yards. So I think there's going to be points there for Williams.
Yeah, agreed. Then we have San Francisco going to Cincinnati. Both teams at the bottom of their conference standings. Bengals are actually 6th, and the 49ers are 7th in the NFC. So definitely both teams needing to win to stay alive in the hunt. But what do you guys think of this? I know there were some questions on Debo Samuel. So, Sean, what do you think?
I like the Niners better on the road than the Bengals being at home. The Bengals, with Joe Mixon possibly banged up, can they trust anyone else to step up? Jamar Chase has kind of been on a downfall lately. And the Niners defense has been doing a pretty good job of stopping teams from scoring. It's the offense without, like you said, Debo. Can they put up enough yardage with their other receivers to keep the offense rolling down the field to get in scoring range? But with the Bengals, you also got to look at it as Joe Burrow is known for interceptions and everything in their own red zone when they're able to score or a fumble. So I do think the Niners have the upper hand in this game, but if Jamar Chase can find a way to get open on the tight coverage that the 49ers like to play with his speed, I think then it could be a Bengals getting an early score or an early lead. And then from that point on, they can work with it and get the fans going into it to make the Niners feel outnumbered and have the crowd noise affecting the 49ers offense.
You always bring up Chase. You never bring up my guy Higgins. What's wrong with you?
Higgins has actually been the go-to guy lately.
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing really good. I mean, last week I think he had a pretty big game. I think he had over 100 yards, and I think he had a touchdown. So it's been weird that in early weeks they weren't getting the running game going, and Jamar Chase was known for getting a lot of catches, and then they got the running game going, and Jamar Chase has kind of been non-existent as much. So I think that will open up the offense a lot more for that point.
Jeremy, any thoughts on San Francisco and Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough for the Niners without their guy. I mean, Debo's been such a good weapon, and we're not sure if he's really playing or going to be effective, even if he does. Such a tough loss against Seattle, but I think that they're more talented. I just think they're the better team at the end of the day. And before that Seattle game, they were coming along strong, and it's not like Seattle's a bad team. Forget about their record. We all know the situation there. If you watch the game, and Seattle played that like a rival game with total fire, and they were like looking more like the Seahawks. So it was, it's not that San Francisco didn't play well. It's not that they're not a competitive team or anything. They were playing well. They continue to play well. Cincinnati's so hot and cold, so up and down. It's hard to trust them. When you're a Jet fan and we know we beat them, it's like it's hard to trust them after that, because how can you lose to us?
Right.
So it's kind of like it sticks with you. You can't let go of the fact Cincinnati lost to us. So I would have, I feel like San Francisco will take that game from a fantasy perspective. I don't know. There's not a ton that excites me because of the injuries. Like the guys that I would say to look for, like, are just kind of out and not there. So I guess, if I had any one player from those teams, it would, even though he struggled, like just for like a high ceiling, it would be Chase.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have a question coming in from Ham Sandwich. That might be one of the best names ever. He says Seahawks defense or Saints defense. Honestly, this week, I don't think you can go wrong with either. I have the Saints ranked as the second defense and the Seahawks ranked as the fourth defense. Sean, what do you think?
I think like you said, you can't go wrong with either. Truthfully, I think that the Seahawks defense probably you have more upside to it, just for the fact that backup quarterback, third string running back for the Texans, that you have a better chance of a turnover ratio, and with a rookie quarterback, he's going to be forcing a lot of throws. So I think the Seattle defense could step up today and possibly have a really good game.
Jeremy, what about the Saints defense going up against the Jets today?
Well, I mean, because I think the Seahawks have the much higher ceiling, because I could see that being like a disaster, like a blowout for Houston, like with some huge plays. But with the Jets, here's the thing. I mean, they're obviously New Orleans is not going to, you're not expecting the Jets to score much as far as points or light them up yardage and things like that. But they're also playing a much more conservative offense lately. Like Zach Wilson they've been a lot more conservative with him. He's being a lot safer, and his turnovers are down. So it might be harder to get the turnovers and things like that. Possibly not. I mean, it might be a route where they sack him 6 times and they get some fumbles, but I would go with Seattle's defense. Just because I just think that Houston is I think like even the Jets beat Houston. I mean, I think Houston's really bad, and I think Seattle's going to crush them and really, and have it. I just think they have a higher ceiling, whereas I think the Jet game could go either way. I think that they're kind of an up and down team, and if they've been, again, a lot more conservative, and they might not turn the ball over. And Zach has been getting rid of the ball better. Like, we're watching a rookie progress each week and give less points to the defense.
Yeah. Let's keep going here. We have Chicago going into Green Bay for the Sunday night game. Guys, before I let you guys chime in on this, I know, Jeremy, you put out a video earlier this week about this over on your channel. So why don't you go ahead and start with this one?
Okay. I think that it's going to be a really tough game offensively for Chicago, obviously. I'm sorry, are we talking about Sunday night or Monday night?
Yes, Sunday night, Chicago.
Okay. Well, because I was looking for some reason I heard Monday. But, yeah, so I think it's going to be a very, very difficult game for Chicago. I think it's not against Justin Fields. I think it's going to be good for him. It's good for him to get this notched up, the box checked in his career. Like, if you're going to play for the Bears, you got to get used to going into Lambeau. So I wouldn't freak out if I was Chicago. I'm not trying to create a panic. I'm just not expecting Justin Fields to have a good game, and that's okay. I wouldn't expect any rookie to have a good game in this situation he's coming into. So I think that's going to affect their entire offense. And I think that always breaks their defense, right? Chicago has a really good defense, but it breaks because they're on the field too much, because Chicago can't do enough. So I don't know if I'm not expecting an explosive Green Bay game where you're going to have crazy numbers or anything, but I mean, I think that Green Bay is just going to win the game. And I think, obviously, if you have Aaron Rodgers, you start him, because you just have to start Rodgers if you have him, obviously. And yeah, I mean, that's how I see that game. But I would feel very uncomfortable with any offensive player for Chicago. That's the one thing I would say.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if, honestly, Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones have more offensive yards combined with those two than the whole Chicago offense as a whole, just because those two are going to definitely just be on the attack. And Aaron Rodgers, after what happened in the other Chicago game, saying he owns them, I really think that he's just going to go out to say, all right, well, let's just route them and be done with it and be 2-0 against them this year. So I don't like Chicago at all. The offense is just, it's so up and down and questionable. It's hard to pick anyone on that roster that could be doing good. The only person I think that has a decent game that could have one is Mooney. But even with Justin Fields at quarterback, he's been very hit or miss. When Andy Dalton's there, I feel like he's got a better option of having more targets thrown his way. So I think Justin Fields is going to realize tonight how a Lambeau Field game is and how loud the crowd is, and that he's pretty much going to have only a few seconds to get rid of that ball, because the Packers defense is going to be coming off the edge and blitzing as much as possible to get at Justin Fields, knowing that he'll just throw the ball up and it could be a turnover.
Yeah, agreed. Then ending the week, we have the Rams going to Arizona. Arizona won the first matchup. So this, in sense of division standings, the Rams need to win this game if they want a shot at the division. But they should still be good for the playoffs. Guys, what do you think of this matchup and Murray and Hopkins being back?
I like it. I think that last week they proved it a little bit that why they're back. It helps the offense. I mean, it was a really bad rainy game in Chicago, and Kyler Murray still had 4 touchdowns, I think, overall, 2 rushing, 2 throwing. So, and then Chase Edmonds is back for Arizona too, so that helps the running back core out a lot. So, without Darrell Henderson, I don't know how much running the Rams will get with Michelle, but I do think that the Rams are going to play hard and they're going to be out there knowing they have to win the game to possibly win a division. So I just think that if the Rams can go out and they can throw the ball over the field, I think that's what Matt Stafford's going to have to do and not have a turnover, just because if he's turning the ball over a lot, Arizona's going to put points on the board every time because they have the option of being the home team and getting the crowd into it, that the Rams could possibly be like they played a couple weeks ago when they played in Green Bay. If the home crowd gets into it and they're trailing, that it could get ugly.
Yeah, agreed. We do have a quick question here. PPR flex, Darnell Mooney, Jarvis Landry, or Kareem Hunt? Either one of you. Go ahead.
I like Landry.
Yeah, and I wonder. Okay, I assume it's one. I was just going to look. I assume it's one spot. Landry. Jeremy, any thoughts on the question?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was 2. I was going to say Landry and Hunt probably, but I would go. I would agree with Sean. I would go with Landry. Yeah, just again, highest ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's the. I believe the 2 tight ends for the Browns are out. The 2 top tight ends. I think Austin Hooper is the starting tight end today with Njoku and Bryant out. They're without Anthony Schwartz, their 1 wide receiver. So if they're not able to run the ball a lot, which Baltimore doesn't give up much rushing wise, then I think Cleveland has to obviously throw the ball a lot. And with Baker's injury and all that, he's not going to be throwing up 40-yard bombs, 50-yard bombs with ease with a shoulder injury. So it could be a lot of quick checkdowns. So I would go with Jarvis Landry just for the fact that he's the go-to guy there in Cleveland now without OBJ. And in the red zone, he's got the capability of getting jet sweeps or end arounds that go his way. So, and he's also known for throwing the football every once in a while, even possibly. So I just think you have a better upside with Jarvis Landry than Mooney, who is playing with Justin Fields against a really good Packer defense, and Hunt, who's playing behind Nick Chubb as a backup. So I just think that you have that better option.
Guys, yeah, we're getting close to 5 up here. So make sure your lineups are in. Make sure any injuries. Jeremy, why don't you share what you got going on over on your channel?
Okay, NFL Chaos with Jeremy. Been doing predicting games every week. Every week on Thursday morning, a video comes out. Probably going to start going live every week for NFL talk, football conversations, draft on Wednesday evenings. Haven't decided the exact time, but NFL Chaos with Jeremy is where you find all that. And going to try to have, again, especially as we move past the season, we're going to have a lot of insider guests from different teams. I'll be inviting all of you, to join me to do just analysis team by team. So like when I do the Vikings, we know who I'll be asking to come on. And we're going to, we'll talk about draft needs and who they like and who they want to draft and get the perspective of other fans, as Jet fans. So join me on Wednesday night. Start looking for that, but subscribe to my channel, NFL Chaos with Jeremy.
Yeah, and I do have that link down in the description. I also put the link in the chat there, so go ahead and give Jeremy a subscription over there. What else? We do have another question. Bars in the Tuck, full PPR, pick 3. Zeke, Pollard, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Chuba Hubbard. Thanks. Well, Pollard's out.
Yeah.
So it's your 3 options are set in stone there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And those 3 options, honestly, are great options. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is probably going to have a really decent game today. Chuba Hubbard, the only downfall for him is with Cam Newton not getting possible red zone touchdown. But Zeke, I mean, only running back for them. So, I mean, I sent a thing to John the other night. Dalvin Cook reminded me of the way he was running. He reminded me of Zeke back when he first came in the league. And I said, you just got to keep feeding him the ball. And it was like watching an offense to run around a running back, but it's just the Vikings game the other night gave me 6 heart attacks throughout the whole game. I was texting John the whole time. I didn't know if the TV was going to last the whole night or not because I was ready to Hulk smash it because that offense, I just don't understand what we do. I don't know why we throw the ball as much as we need to when we're winning games up by 29, but we feel the need to throw the ball, and it about cost us to win. So, but at least we won on Thursday night, and now we're off until next Monday, and Dalvin Cook even has more time to rest. But, I mean, a banged-up Dalvin Cook in the 2 games he's had a shoulder injury. I think he's combined for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he's playing great when he's injured.
Yeah. Parsons the Tuck said he just noticed Pollard was out. Yep. Sean was telling me that before the stream and when we started.
Yep.
Yeah, he has a broken bone in the bottom of his foot.
Oh, he's done.
Yep.
For the year. That's it.
Yeah. No, they said he was possible to playing. They said they were going to give him like extra. They were going to have a shoe built for him to have extra strength on the bottom. It's like it's not like it's like I guess it's a bone that goes from your heel to the front of your foot. It's like one of those little. I don't know if it's broken or if it's fractured, how it works, but they said there's a bone somewhere in between that is something's wrong with it. And I guess he got injured in the Saints game, but he seemed like he was running fine all throughout that game when he scored that 68-yard touchdown. So not really sure.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We'll be sticking a cortisone. Give him a cortisone shot.
Yeah. I think they'll keep him out if they need to for as long as they need to. Playoffs are in the uprise, and you need your players for that. You'll see a lot of teams doing that now.
Yep.
Yeah. Sean, we got a couple minutes yet here. Any on the quarterbacks here, guys that might be at the lower end of the list that are worth playing this week in your fantasy league?
Taysom Hill. He's available in a lot of leagues. I mean, you only got a minute and a half to put him in if you're putting him in, but he's worth it just for the fact of the running aspect. You might get a few turnovers from him, which is known for any quarterback, but I like him a lot. I just think that he has a good upside. He reminds me a lot of Kyler Murray when he first came in the league, but he's been in the league for so many years already that he's not really a rookie or a youth anymore. I think he's 31 or 32 years old. So he's been in a while. Same with Cam Newton. They're playing a bad Falcons team. So I think that he's worthy of starting and getting going.
How about running backs?
My main man right there in the middle of the screen, Cordell Patterson. He's gonna get over like 30 points fantasy today. He's gonna he is a freak of nature. I mean, to only be projected 14. I think that's what just his receiving yards, what he's gonna get, because the guy gets like 6 receptions a game and he turns them into big gains. But looking at the bottom of the screen there, you have Saquon at 13.4. I think he's due for a big game. 26th ranked defense. I think he's got to just get fed the ball a lot more, and I think that's where it comes in at.
Let's keep going here. Receivers. Go ahead.
He's not on your screen here, but he's probably down a while lower. Guyton on the Chargers. I just think that he's due to have a bigger game today for the fact that he's without Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. He had a big game last week against the Bengals, and he caught a touchdown pass there deep. I think it was like 70-yard touchdown. So I think that he's due to have a big game, probably first big one of his career, really. Another person that's going to have a decent game, I believe, is Russell Gage on the Falcons. the guy's been getting a lot of targets. They've been double teaming Kyle Pitts a lot of lately, and without Calvin Ridley, he's the main guy besides Cordell Patterson to get the ball. So I think he's due for a decent game as well. He's been on the uprise a lot.
Sean, before we log off here, any crazy stat projections for today?
No, I don't really. The games are so really close division games, or they're really lopsided. But I really think the upset of the game for me today is the Detroit Lions over the Denver Broncos. I do think that Detroit can go in there and win that game.
How about you, Jeremy? Any chaotic takes for today?
I think Alvin Kamara is gonna might set a record today. I think he's gonna score 3 touchdowns and put up 150 yards with like 12 receptions.
I mean, he did have 6 touchdowns last Christmas, so I don't know if he's setting any records. He tied records already, but I said that the other night with Dalvin Cook. I was like, that rushing record's looking great after 160 yards rushing in the first half, and then we threw the whole second half. So,
well, sometimes my wild takes fall flat on their face, so maybe I'm secretly doing that because I want to be wrong.
I want to be wrong.
No,
Guys, go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just gonna say, I was gonna bring up before we get off stream here about the playoff challenge. I know you had the link on Thursday, but it didn't work. It linked it towards Twitter. So I'm not sure if you put the link in that I sent you for the stream and for the playoff challenge for people to start able to join and let's just start growing. I mean, it's week 14. We still have 5 weeks to go until the playoffs begin. But the more, like we said the other night, the more people we can get into it and join into it to get in, the better the payouts will be. I mean, once we get everyone set up that before the first wild card game, we'll be able to sit here and say who's all in, what the prizes will end up being, and how much they'll be, and let everyone try to start winning a lot of money back.
Yeah, yep. And last week, I'll double check that link in the description. Thanks for letting me know there, Sean. But last week at the end of the stream, was it last week, Sean?
We talked about it last Sunday, and we talked about it on Thursday night. But last Sunday is when we got 100 subscribers.
Yeah, we finally reached that first milestone. It's been a long grind, but guys, thanks so much for the likes and the subs. We do have some cool things coming up in the off season as well.
Absolutely.
With let's see, let me get rid of that again. I'm making some team pages to look at how the players did during the year, some of their free agents, some of their draft needs, the draft picks they have. I have it up on the screen there for the Vikings, but I have it all set up for every team. So we'll be diving into that a little bit. But guys, good luck in your fantasy teams today. We'll be back Thursday to talk about Thursday night's matchup.
Yeah, Chargers versus Chiefs on Thursday. It'll be a good game.
Chiefs. So, guys, good luck to your fantasy teams. Good luck to your NFL teams, and we will see you Thursday.
See you guys on Thursday. Have a good day of fantasy.
Enjoy, everyone.